It's going.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. I have here, as you can see on the other side, Andrew's Wizardly Reads here, because we are doing the Booktube/YouTube Friends Tag that was originally created by Andy Smith. And so with this one,
Figured it out finally. It took forever.
I can never remember which side is which when I'm doing these either, so it's all good. No, I still have it wrong. There we go. So he's this way.
Yeah. It's
on the
exact
left on the
opposite
screen,
direction of
but
what you think it should be.
yeah. So with Andrew's Wizardly Reads here, and what we're doing here, if you're seeing this one first, he's also going to have a video posted where he asked 5 questions, and we talked probably too long about things unrelated to the questions too, as is wont to happen when we do a video together. But it's all good. But so in this video, I'm going to be asking him 5 questions. And the rules basically for this are there does have to be at least 5 questions. It's somebody that you met on Booktube and do not actually know in real life, and they are not allowed to know the questions beforehand. So he won't know any of the questions that I'm about to ask him for him. So I'll see if I can stump him with any of them, but I don't think any of them will be that hard, really, honestly. So, so with that, the first question is, what story that you haven't read would you love to have written either by you or by somebody else so that you could read it? So like a story that you'd really like to see but haven't.
Can I phone a friend?
Can you phone a friend? Who are you going to phone?
I'm going to phone you.
I mean...
okay, so is it a book I own?
Just like basically something you'd like a story that you think would be really cool to read that you haven't read.
So this isn't something that like exists.
At least not that you know of. If it does exist, somebody can tell you in the comments that like, hey, that's like this book. You should definitely read it.
Oh, that's...
I didn't know I was going to stump you with the first question. I'm winning.
Yeah, no, you got me on the first question. That's interesting because I am not super creative when it comes to like coming up with stories. And I mean, like, honestly, if I could have anybody in history write a book based off of like an idea that's in my brain, it's going to be Terry Pratchett, or mainly because it'd probably be Terry Pratchett or like John Glenn, or like one of my new favorites, Robin Hobb, even though whatever story I come up with, Robin Hobb.
You don't want Robin Hobb writing a story about you. That's not going to end
about
well
me.
For you.
No,
yeah,
no,
it's going to end badly. Yeah,
it's going to end badly. I don't know. Like, I don't have a percolating story in my brain. There's a reason I don't write. Mainly because everything I come up with is just incredibly derivative of stuff I've already read.
I mean, you get that. That's you. I mean, you get that with published authors too sometimes. So
yeah, I don't have an answer for you. That's a hard question.
I tried to come up with some interesting ones here.
Yeah, like no, I ain't got nothing. I'm gonna full on admit I don't have anything for you for that question. I would love to read a story. If I had to come up with a story, I would probably want Terry Pratchett to write it. But barring if the rules are the author has to be alive, I'll choose probably Brandon Sanderson, because he'll make it accessible and interesting, and whatever magic system I come up with will have a crap ton of rules, and then I get to throw penalty flags at people who try and break my rules.
Yeah, even like which granted, I'm not nearly disciplined enough to ever actually write anything long by any means, but like the closest thing I have, because I wrote the question and I was thinking about like, what would mine be? Because I tried forever ago to write a story, but even mine, like every time I think about it, I'm like, that's sort of ripping off Mistborn just a little bit with some of the aspects of it. So just basically like involves prophecies that aren't what they seem, which is something that you got in that. So I'm like, I'd get like, you're just a Sanderson fanboy who wrote this, because it's probably okay, you know. So but I definitely, yeah. I feel like you could come up with almost any idea and give it to Terry Pratchett, and he would just make it work, though. So I mean, I
Yes,
think that's
absolutely.
still a pretty good answer in my book. So even if you're not sure what the topic is, I think he could make it work. He's probably written books on weirder topics than what you could come up with. So.
Exactly. Like I'd probably give him like 5 words and be like, "Can you write a book on this?" He'd be like, "Yeah, sure."
It's already written. I wrote it right in front of you.
Yeah, I wrote that last week. Like, what are you doing?
All right, so we'll go on to number 2. This should be a little bit easier, and this is the non-book related question.
Ooh, yay.
So I know you've traveled a lot, and you've told me a bit about some of the places that you've traveled. So out of the places you've been, what's like the single location that sticks out the most to you? That's the most memorable.
Okay, well, I've got 2 answers here because I've got 2 that jump immediately to mind.
Well, see, that works. That makes up for the first question.
Yeah. So the Great Wall of China immediately jumps to mind, mainly because like growing up, like I always heard about the Great Wall of China. A lot of what you know about the Great Wall of China is a bunch of baloney. You can't see it from space. That's a bunch of malarkey. And it doesn't wrap all the way around China. Also a bunch of malarkey. At least not modern China.
Yeah.
And it's also incredibly dangerous. Like this was built hundreds of years ago, and like so the steps are really worn down, but they're not like at modern levels of steps. And so like some of the steps are only like that far off. And so like you're taking a bunch of tiny little steps, and like it's slick stone. This is stone. It's not concrete or anything like that. And so a lot of the times you're like slipping and sliding, and then like it goes up like when it's sloping, it's not a slight gradient. Sometimes it's at an angle on slick cobblestone.
Oh man.
And it's incredibly dangerous to be on the Great Wall of China. The risk of falling is extreme, and it's busy as crap.
That makes so much sense, but you just wouldn't, I feel like, think about it without seeing it, that it would be in that bad condition. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is really old, and like people walk on it all the time, which doesn't probably help preserve it. So,
and it's constantly under construction. Constantly under construction.
I feel like it would have to be, yeah.
Because a lot of what you're walking on isn't original. It's been restored for tourism. Some of it is original, but then like there's areas that you're just not allowed to walk on. And then there are parts of the wall that are just completely like broken down and stuff like that. But I'm not going to get into that. You can talk about documentaries. The other thing that, well, actually I've got 3 because I took a really memorable trip to Taiwan, and my wife was super tired one night, and we went out to go get dumplings. And we go to this dumpling house, and literally as I'm walking into the dumpling house, there is just this pig tethered right next to the front door, and it's going as you're walking in, you're just like, Jesus, like, because that can't happen here in the U.S. You're not allowed to do that. That violates the health code. And then that when we were there, they brought out a platter of like 150 dumplings, and like 10 people just set to work. It was awesome. And then because I lied and I added in a third one. Also in Taiwan, we did this like B&B breakfast kind of place where we stayed for a couple days. And what I didn't know about Taiwan is they have tons of strawberry fields. And so, but they keep all of their products local. And so we went out into these gorgeous strawberry fields and just did strawberry picking for like a day. And it was just so fun.
Wow, nice. See, I mean, those are some pretty good answers though, because I had definitely not heard most of that. So I figured you would have some. I know you definitely done some interesting travel, so
yeah,
very interesting to hear about. So, there's so many places to go. So it's even just in Asia alone, there's so many places you can visit. So yeah, those are some great stories. I'm still laughing at the impression of the pig. Oh God. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to get a thumbnail of that one. It'll join the new one. But if I can compose myself, we'll move on to the third question. This one you might have kind of already answered with the first one in a way, but this one I did specify living. Just if you could get any author interview, so a living author, like you could actually like do it on your channel, who would you like to interview?
Now, you see, there's a lot of indie authors that I would really love to talk to. Specifically, I've the indie shelf Discord, or the shelf space Discord, does a lot of indie author monthly read-alongs where the author will jump into the Discord, and as you're reading the book, you can actually message them. And right now, I've already talked to, I've traded messages with Daniel Barnett, author of the Nightmareland Chronicles, and he said once I'm done, we can talk about getting him on my channel.
Nice.
So that's one. Not enough people are reading Daniel Barnett, and it's frankly it's a shame. I think
I'm definitely going to soon.
It's not fantasy at all, but it's fantastic. Another one I would love to talk to would be Drew Hayes, which, I mean, you haven't read anything about Drew Hayes that I know of. Drew Hayes is absolutely fantastic author. I'd love to talk to him. Mike Shell, author of the Iconoclast. I'd love to talk to him. And then, of course, there's Fletcher. There's just all these people. Zach Argyle. I'd love to have Zach on the channel. It's one thing to say I want to talk to all the big names, and that's great. Like, don't get me wrong. If I could choose any dead author of the two, I would choose two. It would be Robert Jordan and Terry Pratchett.
Definitely fair.
Absolutely,
definitely fair.
100% Terry Pratchett, Robert Jordan. But of the working authors right now, like, I would probably choose the indie route. Because they're easier to schedule. Like, I don't need that hassle of trying to schedule Brandon Sanderson to get on a channel, or figuring out where the crap Robin Hobb lives. I think it's in Washington. Or trying to deal with the time difference in the UK to get John Gwynn on. I'd love to talk to those individuals as well, but I mean, they're doing just fine. And a lot of the time, you can get maybe a different perspective from an indie published author.
Yeah, well, it's a good point too, because you can probably, if you look up interviews for like the really big name authors, you can probably find a ton. But a lot of the smaller indie authors, there's probably not nearly as much out there, and so definitely those you'd learn a lot more, I feel like, from those conversations, and it'd definitely be really cool to talk to some of those people for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or I mean, I'd love to talk to Jim Butcher too, but he's done a ton of interviews, so like it wouldn't be an original type of idea.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the type of thing to think about too, is to have it be a good interview. You want to ask questions that they haven't answered a million times. Actually, ask them to get insight in something different, and that gets really hard with like bigger name people, because they're used to answering the same questions. And so that's what I thought too. Which, granted, I don't know that I'm big enough to get any big names, even if I wanted to. But like, if I do an author interview, I want to do it right and like have actually really good, like hopefully insightful questions that they're going to enjoy answering. So there is definitely a lot that goes into it.
Who would you want to get?
Response.
Out of curiosity.
Oh, I like 100% want to interview Kate Elliott. Would be my, I don't know if she counts as a big name, but I just I have so many questions for her. But I want to read all of her books first, and so that's the thing too. And she does, like, she's active online. I found like she did a whole like kind of like YouTube podcast thing with N.K. Jemisin actually not that long ago. Oh. So she is out there and active and everything, but I feel like she's criminally underrated for like a somewhat. I mean, like, she's published, she's not indie or anything, but I'd love to talk to Robin Hobb too. I was definitely on there for living authors, but for smaller stuff, I'm still working on reading a ton of stuff. But there are so many authors. I'm focusing, I feel like, on a bigger series, like filling in the blanks. But a lot of the ones you mentioned are all authors I really still need to read. So
I've been doing a lot
they're
of
all on my list.
Out of nowhere.
Well, like, all of it has sounded so fantastic. Everything you've talked about. So
Will White. Will White's another one I'd like to talk to as well, because for some reason he's not making rounds, but that's because he doesn't need to.
He seems to be like the most famous but still indie author there is, I feel like, because I had heard about him a ton. But he's another one definitely on the list. Basically, anything that Andrew reads and raves about, I just add to the list because, as you'll see in the video, in his video, we talk about how very, very similar our tastes are in books. And so if he really likes something, I'm like, I definitely am going to check that out because it's almost guaranteed that I will also enjoy it because we have such similar tastes in books. So
I've been being a 5-star strumpet lately, to steal a term from Alan.
There have been very few books that I do tend to be like, oftentimes I think we rate books a little bit differently, even if we have the same opinion. Like, I'm a bit stricter. Like, I have to absolutely love a book for it to be considered 5 stars because that's just how I look at the rating system. 5 is the absolute best. So I always think, like, if I rated this book of 5 stars and this book of 5 stars, like, do I really like them the same? Do I not? But it's also purely based on enjoyment for me. Like, if a book is probably not very good, but I absolutely love it, I'm still going to rate it high. And if like a book is really technically well done, but I hate it, like, I'm going to still rate it really low if I hate it. So I do more based on opinions than facts myself. Facts. Yeah. So anyway, question number 4. So this one too, this might be kind of a hard one. And if you can't think of anything I don't know about, you can go with one of your go-to answers. But one of the fun things with talking about books with Andrew is he does read a lot of things that I have not read or that I typically don't read. And so it's always just interesting hearing him rave about a book that I'm like, I would never have read that in a million years if not for him saying something about it. So question 4, though, is what's one book or series that's really like stuck with you that you really enjoy that probably no one would guess?
For this one, I'm probably gonna because I mainly talk about fantasy. I would probably go back to Drew Hayes here. Pretty much the entire breadth of Drew Hayes' work. I was reading pretty much before I discovered Booktube. My boss at work is a big reader like I am, and he does fantasy. And he introduced me to Drew Hayes. And he was just like, just read this, it's one of my favorite series. And I was just like, it sounds dumb. And he was like, you shut your mouth. And so then he was like, just read it and just trust me on this. Whatever, just read it. And it was kind of an exchange of, I was just like, you give me something to read and you read this. And I was like, okay, fine. So I threw I think Monster Hunter International at him or something dumb like that. Totally not up to snuff. And he threw Superpowered Year 1 by Drew Hayes, and it floored me. I've already read the series two or three times. I think all the way through twice, and I mean that's not a small task. Like it's Stormlight sized. The current
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, no, the books are like 45 hours long, or if you do audio. Okay. They are long books, but they have really, really short chapters, so they fly by. But basically, from Superpowered, it's and I think I've talked about this on my channel already.
I know you did at least in one video, but this is definitely one I feel like you haven't talked about as much as some of the others, like Alona Andrews, for example. Some of those I feel like you talked about a bit more, so I'd actually almost forgotten about these ones. So it still definitely works for this, but.
Yeah, the whole premise of Superpowered is basically you've got 3 levels of humans. You've got your regular plain Jane humans. You've got your Powereds who are actually ranked below the humans because they can't control their superpowers. They're superpowers, so they're deemed dangerous. And then you've got your supers. And basically, when superheroes came into existence, a certification program was put in place to limit what certain people could do. And if you didn't certify, you're technically a villain if you go out and use your powers for personal gain. And then the Powereds are just crapped on. And then so this follows the first set of Powereds who have undergone a secret process to be turned into supers to see if Powereds can be cured and turned into superheroes. And because there's such a lower caste, they're really crapped on. But then in that is interwoven this actually really complex mystery. and that took place 20 years prior, that has ramifications to what's going on presently. And it's actually done really, really well, to the point where like it's got great characters. They're all college students, so like they're college students in college doing superhero stuff. But like it's not them going to math class; it's them going to like weightlifting to learn how to take a punch, and stuff like that. So think My Hero Academia, if you get that reference. I know you don't watch a lot of anime. Nico, did you freeze? Okay, Nico froze, but I'm going to keep on talking. So and then like he's got other series as well. He's got the utterly uninteresting Tales of Fred the Vampire Accountant, which I recently got Pete from the Potterings of Pete to pick up. He said he really enjoyed it, and he should have a review coming here soon. He's got a Sword Spells and Sword series that is based off of D&D and tabletop gaming, where instead of following player characters playing D&D, you follow the NPCs within that world. Really, really great. We've lost Nico. Nico is gone, and now this is my channel, and I have come to rule. I am now Nico from Niko's Book Reviews. Let's see if he jumps back in, though. He's back! No! I've been vanquished! Oh, Nico, come on. Did it flicker again? We'll make it work. Me and you.
I don't have high hopes, but I might be here. Usually every time I say I'm here, it kicks out again, but so far so good.
Okay, cool. So did you see my whole I've been vanquished thing?
I got that, and then and then I was trying to comment that I'm like, I'm here. It's a thunderstorm. This is what I get, and then it all went out again. But did you finish talking about superpowers?
Oh no, I talked about like 3 different series by Drew Hayes, waiting for you to come back. And then I was just like, as soon as you dropped, I was just like, and I am Nico from Niko's Book Reviews. I am victorious.
I'm definitely gonna have to watch this back because like, I feel like it has to be included, at least some of it. We'll cut through the waiting time, but I was not expecting that. It's been storming a lot here for the last couple of days, but the power has been totally fine until I get on a broadcast, and then that's when the issues come in.
But yeah, my answer was definitely Drew Hayes. Superpowers, I'll recap since you didn't hear it. It was Fred the Vampire Accountant, which is absolutely fantastic. It's supernatural fiction. And basically, it's about an accountant who literally gets turned into a vampire, but his sire abandoned him. And so, like, he tried to be a vampire on his own, found out he was awful at it, so just went back to being an accountant. And so, like, and then, like, slowly discovers the supernatural world and finds out there's supernatural accountants, and it's an actual job title, and the undead need their taxes done as well.
Those both do sound interesting, so I'll have to check out some Drew Hayes, and I'll watch back to get the full descriptions, too.
I got Pete from the Potterings of Pete to read, because Pete is an accountant. And so I was just like, I've got this series about an undead accountant, and he was just like, gimme.
Yeah, and, that's fair.
He liked it. He had complaints because it didn't have a lot of accounting in it. But other than that, like, it's fantastic.
It's what we do in the shadows.
It's akin to, like, I don't want to say it's like Terry Pratchett or Hitchhikers. I don't want to say it's like that because it's not that absurd.
I got
But at the same time, like, it's a bit on the nose. And, like, literally, it's about this accountant just making friends in the supernatural world and what can happen when you make powerful friends.
Interesting. I'll definitely have to try those out. I try to throw in just different books every now and then. But, yeah, that's one I know. I remember when you talked about it the one time you were just talking about, like, underrated stuff in general, it sounded kind of interesting. And my first thought was like, I don't feel like I would like that. But because of the fact that you thought the same thing and then liked it, that's definitely something I'll have to give a shot.
It's so good. But the chapters are like 5 minutes a chapter. Basically, he released it a lot like Epic was trying to do with his Cradle of Chaos.
Oh, just like bit by bit.
But the author was releasing each chapter for peer review. So then everybody would rush in and read it, edit it, and then he would just do it like that. And then he did a final edit to make sure everything was cohesive. And then Amazon stepped in and was just like, hey, we want that. That's really cool. And that's kind of how it started out. It's fantastic. One of my best audios as well. Specifically because the women sound like drag queens.
That is pretty specific, but maybe that'll be finally. I'll try some audio and do something like that. If I can do with small bursts, maybe I can make that work. But
I sent the first one to not Nico, you're Nico, to Walker.
What?
I sent it to Walker right before they cut off the program.
Oh, I gotcha.
And so he's got the first one, and I'm waiting to hear his review of it, but I don't think he's had a chance to get to it yet.
There's always so many books. But so before the storm decides to kick me out again, we'll jump to question number 5, which is a 2-part question.
Oh, cheater!
But well, it's so there's the real question and there's the question that I'm going to ask first. But when do you think you'll let your daughter read Wheel of Time?
Providing that she likes reading, because I'm not going to force the issue.
Fair.
It will be. I don't see any reason why 10 or 11 isn't too soon. So
that's fair enough. That's when we both started. So
yeah, I picked it up. I think at 12 or 13, and I've got them all. But she's getting her own damn copies, not mine.
Fair. Yeah, I had used library copies, and I'm the Eye of the World. And granted, I was the only one checking it out from my public library, I'm pretty sure. But it was old when I got it, and at one point the binding kind of fell off, so I got some Elmer's glue and fixed it as best I could, being 11. And they never said anything, and they still have the same copy as far as I know to this day. So apparently it worked. So granted, I haven't been in that public library in I don't know how many years, so I don't know for sure, but
yeah, no, I actually had them all in mass market paperback.
Oh, I gotcha.
I think Knife of Dreams was the first one that I got in hardcover, because when it released, I got it as a Christmas gift.
Gotcha.
On release. So I absolutely love Knife of Dreams. And I'm probably going to get the original Eye of the World, mainly because I don't like the Raven's prologue. The Raven's prologue bothers me because it shouldn't exist.
I think that's only in the split ones.
No, it's in the anniversary edition too.
What?
Yeah, go look right now.
Okay, yeah, that I have to. I did not know that.
It's actually prologue number 1. It starts with ravens.
That's really upsetting. Oh my gosh! Why would they do that? It's universally panned.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna probably go out and buy. And I think they've discontinued the original hardcover in favor of the anniversary edition.
Yeah, it's really expensive to get now because you can't get them new anymore. And it used to be they always still. I'm sure they still have them, but you have to pay more to get it. That's really upsetting. I don't know why you would tell me that. I mean, I would have found it out.
Barnes & Noble leather bound.
This is true. I do have. That's the reason why I don't have a standard original, because I got the Barnes & Noble one when I was first collecting all my hardcovers, and it works. It's really nice. It works for reading too, but that's just upsetting. I don't know why they would put that in there.
For me,
it's just it's a good thing.
Ravens. It serves no purpose. It has zero tie-in to the story, and I don't want it in my copy.
That's so on that bombshell.
I'm sorry.
No, I really had no. I thought you were messing with me, and I'm like, it's really in there.
Yeah.
That's just
That's why it's thicker than the original release. It's got Ravens in there, and then it's got another introduction by Brandon Sanderson.
But, like, couldn't they have put something good in there? Like, I mean,
like art?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just annoyed. I only paid $12. I got it in Book Outlet. I only paid $12.
I got it. I bought it on release, $30.
I wanted to, and I was so glad that I didn't after hearing you complain about it. But then later, when I'm like, it's only $12. I'll get that. So at least I didn't pay full price. But the second part, hopefully getting us in a happier direction again, was because I imagine it's not the Wheel of Time, despite the fact that being a favorite. What's like the series that you're most excited to have your daughter read or like share with your daughter once she starts getting a little older?
I think I can reasonably, because it's got a lot of important lessons to teach. It's not going to be a surprise. It's going to be those right there. Those are Discord.
Oh,
and
that is a really interesting pick.
It's got a lot of important societal and political issues that, you know, it's about breaking down prejudices. It's about societal structure, but it's done through fun, witty wordplay, and fantasy. And so I am more than willing to let my child read Discworld, even though it's got death in it, which that's another lesson to teach. But it also, it's an inevitable part of life. But I mean, it also shows death as an approachable character, as somebody who's just trying to do the best job he can.
And at least in the books I've read so far, there is some like innuendo, but it's very much like it's not made very blatant at all. So
there's no swearing. There's no real but it's not like YA or middle grade. It's adult fantasy, but it's still accessible to a younger individual.
Yeah, that I honestly was not thinking about that at all. That is a really great answer to that question, a really great pick. So that does make a lot of sense, because specifically so many of the books are designed on kind of having that social commentary or like trying to show a perspective like that. And so that's an awesome answer.
What did you think I was going to choose?
I wasn't really sure. Like, I know you mentioned that you were getting Harry Potter for her was one.
I did. I'm getting that from Evie. I think she said she was shipping it next week.
Yeah, so like,
I was moving my cursor off the remove button.
Yeah.
Just so I can take over your channel again. No. But Discworld it's got a lot of important, like, it's great fantasy, it's good literature, impressive wordplay, great characters, great story, and just all around just fun, but with good lessons to teach.
Very fair. See, I have, which it's actually slightly off frame, the Prydain Chronicles, which is actually designed as children's fantasy by Lloyd Alexander. But I feel like that would work better if you had a son, because the one book that focuses on the female character doesn't focus on her nearly as much as Lloyd Alexander in the 60s seemed to think. But it's a fantasy story, but each book very much is framed as lessons, especially like the fourth one is about growing up and like finding your place in the world, and realizing that you're not going to be necessarily good at everything and stuff like that. So that's always one that comes to mind for me. I read it when I was like, I barely remembered it. I actually remembered a lot less than I thought, and several other plot lines were not in the books at all, and I don't know where they came from. I have never figured it out, but that was my my like elementary school library when I was in like between first and third grade. Had some of those books, and I had read them.
It's funny when you speak of elementary school and stuff like that. Like, in my brain, I always jumped from like Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings, which isn't in fact true. It's kind of true. There is literally one series in there that I never finished, but it was The Young Adventures of Merlin. And I have to look up. I don't even know who wrote it. But I used to love Adventures. I'm looking it up right now.
Go for it, yeah. I've got time unless the power goes out again, Yeah,
right.
We've covered the fifth question, so at this point everything's a bonus. So
Oh, it's The Lost Years of Merlin is who it's by, and it's by T.A. Barron.
Oh, that's T.A. Barron. I have something by T.A. Barron.
And he wrote like an 8-book series about a young Merlin. And I used to, I ate up like the first 4 books, but then I like moved on to like Lord of the Rings, or from there I moved into the adult fantasy. So it's like the only like middle grade series that I read.
Yeah, I definitely get. I feel like I've read something. I don't know what specifically, but I feel like I've read something by that author. But yeah, I mean, like I was reading. Like when I was like younger, I just kind of read whatever was there, and that's why I started reading Dragonlance, because that was basically all my local library had for fantasy for the most part. But then like I started reading Wheel of Time, which they had books 1 and 3.
That's it.
They had one. They kept book 2 after I had them get it from another library, and then later they got The Gathering Storm. I think none of the in between books, but uh, seriously, but. Yeah, but so like I ended up being able to get those there, and then I spent so much time reading the Wheel of Time and like anxiously waiting for them to interlibrary loan me the next copy, and reading them. So by that point, that's why I never got a ton into a lot of it. There is still like other books that I read. That's why I hate this. I don't know if you had the stupid Lexile system in school. Um, where like it was like books rated with like a specific score, and you had to read like within your level basically, and like I read at a high level, so like all the books I was allowed to read were like super boring, and like they rated like Wheel of Time like between 8 and 900, and like Gary Paulson books were all over 1,000, and I'm so tired of Gary Paulson. All his
That
books are the
doesn't
same.
sound at all familiar to me.
Gary, he wrote Hatchet among other things.
No, that rating system. I have
Oh,
no idea what that is.
you're just a couple years older than me, so you might have just missed it, but or maybe it
I
was
was
only a thing
I
in
was
my
reading
state.
high school level by the time I
Mm.
was like 6th grade, and then by the time I was in 8th grade, I was reading at college level.
Yeah, I was in the same boat, and it's just like I would read whatever book I was supposed to read, and then just read Wheel of Time. Basically, it's what I did when I was in middle school, especially because I'm like, it's like I don't like I get it. They're trying to make sure that like people are reading books that are considered, but I feel like so much of that was arbitrary. Because like I said, like Wheel of Time was rated much as a lower like reading level than much shorter, easier to read books, in my opinion. So it was,
Weird.
yeah,
I don't
who
know.
knows?
I read all sorts of crap. I read Dragonlance. I read The Lost Years of Merlin. I read Harry Potter. I read Lord of the Rings. Um, what else did I read?
It always
I
upsets people when I say I read all the Harry Potter books except number 2 in the last one.
Well,
A
that's
lot
odd.
of them were out of order too.
Okay, that's odd to me.
I mean, I was never really a fan, but they were always around.
I was a fan growing up, but that's because it was the biggest series on the market. I gave into a lot of the hype, and it was also like it was big in my family, and just so there wasn't really a whole lot of fantasy to reach for back in 1997.
Yeah.
That like Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman, my parent, if I'd asked my mom to let me read something called the Deathgate Cycle, my mom would have said no. Uh,
Hey, I was in the family that originally I wasn't even allowed to read Harry Potter, so
really?
but growing up.
My mother didn't care. If I'd asked, "Hey, mom, can I read?" Now, if I'd asked to read Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever, she'd be like, "What do you mean, The Unbeliever?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." She'd be like, "Then no."
I mean, but like rightfully so. Like you should not read that book as a child. Hey, at least I'm not the only one having technical difficulties.
I
This
had
is
my
the
legs
cursed.
crossed and then I kicked my light.
This is the cursed version of this stream. If you want to watch the good version, go watch the one on Andrew's channel where everything worked out like it does for Andrew. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's like I feel like I probably read like all kinds of things that I probably shouldn't have when I was younger, but I just kind of basically read like whatever. But and I read Lord of the Rings when I was in high school, and I read several other classics just for the heck of it. And I was they're hit and miss for me. But
I haven't
I
read
didn't.
a whole lot of classics, honestly.
I lived in a from like fourth grade up. I lived in a very, very small town, and there were very few books available. So I kind of just that's where I didn't actually get to read a ton of fantasy when I was younger because there just wasn't that much there, unless I specifically found and sought something out, like I did with the Wheel of Time. That's basically what I could find, and so that's why Wheel of Time, and then Brandon Sanderson, because I found him via finishing the Wheel of Time. Is kind of how I started with a lot of that, and then slowly over the years I found out more and more about all the series I've missed out on, and especially this last year, all of the stuff. I'm like, why didn't I read this like 10 years ago?
Yeah, that's where I'm at
And
right
so,
now.
yeah, there's so
I'm
much
just like, what do you mean all of this fantasy's been out for years? Where have I been? Not paying attention.
So if I ever have a kid and they end up liking fantasy, they will never probably have to worry about like going to a library for books, because by that point I'll have plenty. So
Yeah. I am trying to slow down. I'm trying.
Are you though?
I'm not trying very hard, but I am trying.
That's fair. That sounds pretty fair. Oh man. Well, so those are the 5 questions. So it's been a little bit of a chaotic video, I feel like, but you'll have to see if I'm lying or not if you don't get to see all of the chaos, but I think I might just leave a lot of it in for fun. So, but should probably wrap this one up before anything else terrible happens, like giant hail comes.
You mean like me becoming the overlord of Niko's book reviews?
I have reclaimed it.
So what?
I don't have a weapon. I need an electronic weapon. Like plug in like a weapon. I'm gonna plug in like a Mega Man or something. It's gonna come attack. I don't know.
Excuse me.
Maybe I'll have to come conquer your channel sometime.
Sometime you can. I'm telling you, you should take that idea where I'll just upload videos to your channel, you upload videos to my channel, and everybody will be confused.
And we absolutely cannot address it for anyone.
Yeah, never
people,
bring it up.
Yeah, just don't. Yeah, I do think that'd be fun. So you'll have to, maybe we'll see, and maybe they'll know now if we keep this in. But it's still, I feel like it's a fun idea no matter what. But I think that'll be the end of this one. So make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check out a link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord if you, for some reason, want to talk to us more after this.
I didn't plug the Discord in mine.
You can always add it in later. But I was trying to remember because I used to forget almost every video to do any sort of outro and have to re-record it. Bad at intros too. Getting better. But yeah, so check out the link there if you want to chat with us and all the really cool people there. We talked a lot about the Discord in the video that's on Andrew's. Oh, I got it wrong. On Andrew's channel as well. So definitely check that out and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of this crazy content.